Hey y'all, so welcome back to my channel. So today I'm doing something different. It's some new content I'm gonna be pushing out. And so it's gonna be called Makeup and Bible Stories. Now, I did get inspired by Bailey Sarian and Brittany Vaughn, and if you don't know them, check out their YouTubes. They do makeup and true crime. And God, I ain't gonna say something because I know it was the Holy Spirit that told me like, why don't you start doing makeup and Bible stories? So I'm gonna be obedient and I'm gonna do makeup and Bible stories. So, without further ado, let's get into this Bible story. Okay, so the first Bible story that we're gonna get into. Well, before I even go there, I am gonna be doing my makeup. I'll have all the things that I use for my makeup in the description box at the bottom because, yeah, I am trying out some new stuff that I just bought. Like I said, everything will be in the description box. And it's more about the story than my makeup. So, the story that we're talking about today takes place out of Mark 4:35 through 41. And this is when Jesus calms the storm. So, it was a day, I don't know exactly what day or anything it says in the Bible, but it's a day specifically when Jesus is preaching to a crowd. And by this time, his disciples have been walking with him for a while now. And so I ain't gonna say it was a long time, but it was like they seen him do some things. Like they seen him perform some miracles and stuff like that. So this wasn't anything new to them about him preaching to a crowd and them being right there being assisting him. And so, just like how we are, when we hear somebody in town or whatever or on social media or whatever, we start flocking to them. So, everybody in the town, like, oh, y'all know that new man, like, he says his name Jesus, y'all. Like, I heard he did this, this, and that. He do miracles and he own one. So we need to go check him out. So what happened is that crowd started growing larger and larger. And since the crowd was growing larger and larger, it was making limited space on the shore of the lake where God was preaching. Excuse me, where Jesus was preaching. Okay. Now, imagine a shore. Okay. It's like expansive, but of course, it's gonna be limited in a sense of if somebody is speaking because their voice can only reach so far, and you can only see them so far. But that had to mean that Jesus had a packed house. Okay, I'm talking about he sold out a arena. So they was doing that. Okay, so I'm back with my little brows on, y'all. So let's get back into the story. So like I was saying, when Jesus talked to these crowds, he always talked to them in parables, which was like these stories, but it had deeper meaning. And so with that, people was entertained. It was like story time. Like, girl, he about to tell a story. Like, listen to his story time. That would be the equivalent of a story time today. So he started telling his parable, and one of the parables that he told was the parable of the sower. And so I'm gonna just sum it up and say it verbatim, but you can always go check it out. Like I said, it's in the Bible the Bible Mark, the Bible book Mark, excuse me, chapter 4, verse 35 to 41. So it was a farmer who went out and he sowed some seeds, meaning he went to go plant some seeds in the soil. And when he put the seeds, fell on various grounds. Like some fell on good soil, some of the seeds fell on okay soil, some of the seeds fell on great soil. So he was telling this parable, and the crowd, I could just imagine they like, oh my gosh, like what? You know, but really when Jesus told them parables, it had a deeper meaning. And see, with that parable was a parable of the words. Please excuse all this noise in the dang background. I don't know what's going on today outside, but man. So, anyways, Jesus was like, telling that parable, and then that parable had a deeper meaning as far as the word of God. And see, that's what people wasn't grasping on. They was too busy trying to be entertained, but they wasn't thinking about the message. So, he was saying how the word of God, which is the seed that is to be planted inside of each one of us, it falls on different ground due to that person's heart. So some seed fell on right on the surface and got birds took it away. Some seed fell on soil, like fell in the soil, but not far enough so that when things start getting rough or whatever, like it it withered away. Like if if the sun burned hot enough, like it got withered away and stuff. So it was just, that's a good parable to go check out. So after he was telling that parable, I could just imagine the crowd going, wow, like, yeah, another great story time. You the man, Jesus, you the man, right? So then the disciples sitting right there and they like, okay, why is they getting story times and we don't be getting this? Like we be receiving information just like straightforward. And so Jesus had to tell his disciples, like, look, when I speak to them, I speak to them like this on purpose. Because they gonna always be seeing but never perceiving, and they always gonna be hearing, but like never being able to comprehend what I'm talking about. And the reason that is because, you know, they were there to be entertained. Like I said, you go listen to a story time, most of the time you're not really listening to grasp information or learn a lesson from it. You're listening to it because you want to be entertained. And that's what they were doing back in the day. They was listening to Jesus to be entertained. Not saying that maybe some people didn't catch on to what he was saying, but Jesus knew what he was talking about. You feel me? So once that had taken place, by this time night was falling. So evening was upon them, you feel me? They was like, Jesus was already telling them, like, fetch the boat, because we about to be dipping out, pretty much. I mean, like, let's start preparing to get ready to go. And while night was falling, signs of a storm was brewing, and they could tell. So, imagine you like, hey, Jesus was telling stories all day to these large crowds, assisting him, and then now y'all supposed to be leaving, and you looking at the storm brewing, like, okay, it's about to be storming and everything, but nevertheless, Jesus says time to roll, time to bounce about that thing. So they're preparing to get ready to go and stuff. And I never knew this when I heard this story before, told to me before, is the fact that they had other boats with them. So it was other people that was going to be crossing to the other side with them. And this, to me, it sets up a really good point to this story. So, they jump in a bizzle. Everybody, mind you, the crowd is still there. The crowd didn't even leave yet. I guess they wanted to see Jesus off. Like, let's watch him leave. Whatever. However, whatever they was thinking, they didn't leave. So they in a boat, and as they're crossing, a squall comes over them. Which a squall is a localized storm, according to Webster's dictionary. And it's literally specific to that part of where it's storming at. So I mean, like, everything else around is not bothered, but it's literally a localized storm. Like, it's literally just that part where it's raining at. Like, whether it's across 50 feet of land, sea, whatever, 50 feet of space, like, it's literally just exclusive to that part. Now, as a disciple, you feel me? They over there trying to maneuver as best as they can through that storm while Jesus is asleep in the stern. So he's asleep. And that lets me know, like, you feel me? They had to be on that water for some time because, mind you, Jesus just got finished preaching to a crowd, you know. Then he had them fetch the boat. You know, it's things that you do to prepare to get on a boat and stuff like that. And I'm sure he didn't just go right into the stern and just fall straight asleep, especially being as though the disciples had questions about, you know, their walk with him and why they receive information a certain way and stuff like that. So I'm pretty sure he was probably catching them up on stuff, letting them know information and letting them know what they was about to be doing next and all that stuff. So that lets me know that if he was asleep while this storm was brewing, that they had to at least been on that water for about a good 20 minutes before Jesus knocked out in the stern on a cushion and they got hit with a storm. So this storm is bad, y'all. I'm talking about, it says in the Bible, like the waves was hitting up against the boat, but also going inside of the boat. And mind you, a squall also can be categorized in the sense of rain, sleet, and snow. So if they're on the water, you could just imagine rain coming down on them from the top. And then this big old waves hitting the side of the boat as well as coming inside the boat. And I don't know if you ever been in a boat, but baby, I ain't never been in one when it's a storm, but you have to know, like, it gets dense when water enters it. You know, it starts to weigh down. And that's one of the reasons why it's built the way it's built, so water won't be able to get into it and weigh it down. So imagine waves is dark, it's nighttime. You trying to sit up here and see through the night, you know, it's not like now where we have all this technology and, you know, we have headlights on boats and all this crazy stuff. It's a little modern, I mean, not modern, a little modest sized boat. And you having moonlight direct you to where you're going. So it's dark, it's raining, it's storming. So ain't no telling if the moon was even out. And then you have these waves crashing up against your boat, rocking it like crazy. But you also have water going inside the boat and it's making the boat dance. You know, so you're thinking like, I mean, I know if I was on that boat, I'd be like, damn, this is it. Like, this is it. Because either this my boat gonna tip over or it's gonna sink. You know, it's nighttime, I'm in the middle of the ocean, I don't know which way to swim. Like, all of that would have been plaguing my mind, and I'm sure it's plaguing their mind. And how you know it's plaguing their mind? Because the next thing that they did. Okay, so I'm back with my lashes on. Ooh, these are like extra. I mean, if you did ever messed up on your makeup, put these on and you good. But anyways, so what they do next is they run in there and they gonna wake Jesus up. And it's the way that they woke him up that kills me. Like, that really, like, wow, they really was hot. They really was fired up at Jesus, because when they went in there and they went to go tell him, they said, you know, wake up. Like, don't you care that we about to drown? Don't you care that we about to die? Like, that's verbatim. But they did say, did you care about to drown? Basically. And, you know, Jesus woke up, like, and he just got up. And he literally went out there. And I got to see exactly what he said, y'all, because Jesus was a G. This is when they should have known, like, he was sick, right? So they said he was sleeping in the stern on a cushion. And the disciples woke him and said to him, Teacher, don't you care if we drown? So then, you know, Jesus got up and he rebuked the wind and said to the waves, Quiet, be still. Then the wind died down and it was completely calm. Now, like I said, it probably was about a good 20 minutes that they was on that water before Jesus went to sleep. Ain't no telling how long they try to fight off the storm before they decide to go and wake Jesus up. Now, I don't know about you, but I know like on any given day, I'm pretty sure it was all like, all hail the King Jesus, you feel me? Talk to him with the utmost respect, like, Sire, would you like a cup of cranberry juice? You know, talk to him like that. But when they went in there to go wake him up, boy, they gave him a rude awakening. Like, teacher, don't you care that we about to drown? Like, what's good? Why is you? How would you sleeping through this storm? How would you just acting like, baby, like this boat not about to be tipped over or tanked underwater due to water? So he got up, and this is the crazy part to me, like that I really took away. Like I was like, dang. They say he just got up and went out there and spoke literally 3 words. They didn't say Jesus got up, rubbed his eyes, looked in the mirror, you feel me, made sure his eyebrows was right. They said he literally just got up, went out there and was all like, peace, be still, and went right back, you know, to them. And so after he did that, you know, let me get my little to that. Oh, side note, but I got this Makeup Revolution concealer, Conceal and Divine Full Coverage Foundation. I don't know why I said that little plastic on. So I really want to see how this work. And y'all, I'm sorry I'm getting off track, but I love the applicator. So we're gonna see how this do, and it looks like it's my perfect skin tone color. But it do look full coverage. Look when you wipe one wipe. Like you can't see no more of my little acne. But anyways, back to the story. So after that happened, you know, I'm pretty sure they all just sitting there looking stunned. Like, what? And Jesus is like, what he tell them exactly? Because he had to check them. He had to. He was like, He said to his disciples, why are you so afraid? Do you still have no faith? He like, y'all been walking with me for a while now. Y'all done see me do some miracles. And you mean to tell me you still don't believe that I can do all that I say I can do? So, you know, if I was them, I would have been just sitting there looking stupid. Like, ooh, like, he is right. You know, which he is Jesus, but he is right. Like, we done seen him turn it out time and time again, and we still don't believe. Oh, this color kind of cool tone. Well, you know, it's cool. But anyways, you know, so if I was him, I would have just been sitting there looking with a dumb look on my face. I ain't even gonna lie, honestly. But you know, one key thing to note that earlier in the story, I don't know if I had made this a point, but Jesus had told them, like, you guys are getting the kingdom revealed to you. You guys are, when he was talking to them about why they receive information differently than the normal crowd. And it's because they, it's because they was actually chosen, selected, handpicked. I'm talking about y'all, handpicked, like by Jesus, the Son of God, to walk with him. Peter, I'm gonna just give you one example. Peter was fishing, you feel me, with his brother. That's what he did for a living. And Jesus was walking by. He told him, like, hey, basically, like, come with me, man. Like, you a fisher, but I'm gonna show you how to be a fisher of men. I'm gonna teach you how to basically draw in people and draw them to the kingdom. And he literally stopped what he did, dropped what he was doing, and followed Jesus. So they was literally hand selected, and they was hand selected for a reason. Each of them had something that Jesus could use in his ministry. But you have to understand from their perspective too. Like, okay, I might go with some consider. You have to understand from their perspective too. Like, you know, we don't know this man. We see him do miracles and we see him do signs and wonders, but they still didn't know Jesus like that. You know what I mean? And I'm not making any excuse for them, but it's just real life. When you think about it from a natural standpoint, like, even though they did decide to go and follow him, They still didn't know Jesus like that. You know what I mean? You're still learning who he is and what he does and what he's about. So for them, it's like, hey, like this storm is brewing and we thinking we gonna die and you're just sleeping, you know? But this is another point that I want to make about this story is that remember how we said the people was still on the shore. So they didn't leave, you know. Now, I gave out a definition of a squall, and that's a localized storm. So you have to understand that after they received the revelations about the messages that Jesus was teaching the crowd, what happened? They got on the water, and when Jesus fell asleep, they instantly got tested. Instantly. Instantly. That storm came. And it's no coincidence that Jesus was asleep when that storm came. Now, if you don't get that word, I don't know what's gonna get you. So, for Jesus, he already, I'm pretty sure, was telling them like, look, you part of the kingdom. The same power that I possess from my Father, you possess through me, through you. Like, you with me, and you believe on me, you believe in me, you had the same power. And who knows how that story would have ended or how that story would what it really would have been like if they exercised the power that they was given. Because like I told you, when he was preaching to the crowd and telling them the parables and telling them story times, and he was revealing to them what it really meant, he was letting them know the power that they had. He was letting them know the power that they possessed because they decided to take up their cross and follow him. Now imagine if they never woke Jesus up and they just start speaking to the waves themselves. So after Jesus said that, you know what they did? I'm gonna give you the what exactly what they said. It says, the Bible says, they were terrified and asked each other, who is this? Even the wind and waves obey him. So there you go. It proves a point right there. They still didn't know him. They still, although they was seeing the signs and seeing, you know, the wonders he was doing, and Jesus was telling them who he was, you know, and giving them the keys to success, they still was having a hard time to process it. And as a human being myself, you know, I even still be having a hard time processing. You know, when you walking with God and stuff, it's hard to process some stuff. You know, it's hard to process who you are, let alone who he is. You know what I mean? So I ain't trying to make no excuse for them or nothing, but you know what I mean? Like, it's very well plausible why they thought the way they thought. Okay, so I just had to go and contour my face real quick, y'all, because you feel me? This story was not super long, so you know. The next story time though, we'll be diving into some stuff. But like I said, that was very well. I feel like, you know, I ain't gonna say justified in what they were thinking, but I could understand. And this is something that I wonder about was that conversation after that. Like when they docked that boat, what happened? Like, what kind of conversation did Jesus have with them? Like, what did they ask him? What was the vibes? Because they literally just got put in a place and checked about their faith. They went through a storm where they felt like they nearly was going to die. And, you know, and Jesus was like, shoot, y'all waking me up out my sleep for something y'all can handle. I told you I got the power. And maybe that's how sometimes God feels about us. Like, you calling on me for what? When I already told you got the power, you already got everything you need. Forgive my face, y'all. I know I look crazy. But you gotta bake. You gotta bake it. And I'm just gonna take a little bit of translucent powder and go over my full face. That's what it's gonna do. And y'all, I ain't gonna front. I know I'll be getting off topic, but this Maybelline Fit Me powder is fire. If you need some powder to invest in and you don't want to spend a lot of money, because that's me, I don't want to spend a lot of money, get you some of that. It really, man, it have your face looking flawless. Okay, so anyways, that's what I wonder about. What was that conversation when they docked that boat? Like, what did Jesus tell them? Like, look, y'all ain't believing in me. What's good? And where Jesus was, where they was new to it, Jesus was true to it. Jesus started at 12 years old. He knew what his calling was at that age. You feel me? And I believe that he started his ministry at the age in his 30s. You know? So he been true to it. I mean, y'all know the story. I hope you know the story about, Mary and how his parents came to have had him and stuff like that, and why certain things was taking place, because everybody knew, people knew that he was coming, you know. But anyway, that's another story. But yeah, so back to the story at hand. That's where the story ends. Okay. Jesus checked them. Boom. It's a wrap. I'm pretty sure, I don't know, maybe Jesus went back to sleep. They docked, got to the next destination place, and continued on. We know they continued on because there's more stories after that. Y'all, excuse this gardening in the back. I don't know why they be choosing to do stuff at this time. But, they continued on doing their ministry. And there's some key points that I want us to take away from this story because, like I said, these story times have lessons behind them. You feel me? You don't want to be like the crowd that was listening and they never understand what they was listening to. They were just so busy being entertained. So, receiving revelation and wisdom from God is a true responsibility. See, when they was sitting up there talking about, oh, why we receiving information like this and they getting it like this, they was receiving the real deal Holyfield. You feel me? And they was receiving it in a way that they can do things outside of the normal person. And sometimes we be wanting to be like everybody else and get what everybody else get, but God is like, no, baby, like I called you, I handpicked you for a reason. And not only on top of that, if you want greater reward, it's greater risk for you. And so we have to understand that after receiving revelation from God and receiving the word and knowing that God chose us, you feel me? You got a greater responsibility and know that you will be tested on it. Because, think about it this way. That storm could have very well took place while Jesus was awake. And what would have happened? We could think that, okay, Jesus would have said the same thing. Or, you know what I mean? It probably wouldn't have popped off at all. It would have been like, cut Jesus on that boat. So we can imagine if Jesus was awake on that boat, then he could have very well just stopped everything. He could have very well just stopped everything. But I mean, I said if Jesus on a boat. I mean, if he was awake on the boat. Excuse me, y'all. These sirens going on, too much stuff going on. But he could have very well just stopped it. He could have just been like, you know what? I'm gonna say this, and they would have been feeling comfortable. They probably would never even panic because they're like, we got Jesus right here. But Jesus was asleep. And then they panicked. And I could think about how we do that in our real life. Like, we don't feel God there. We don't feel Jesus there. We don't feel the Spirit or something. Or we forget about that and then we start to panic. And Jesus has to remind us, like, why are you so afraid? You know, do you still have no faith? Like, I'm with you all the time. That's what you need to understand. Even when I'm not with you physically, I'm with you. And that's where I feel like was a good thing for the disciples to take away. Like, oh, snap. And I also had told my mom, because I discussed this with her, like, that could have been very well a foreshadowing of what was to take place, because Jesus did die on the cross and he had to leave them and he let them know that he was going to die. You know, and that could have been very well foreshadowed for, I'm going to leave you physically. What are you going to do when I leave you? Are you going to panic? Are you going to freak out? Are you going to lose your mind? Like, what are you going to do when I leave you? And I don't know, y'all. They were strong men, I would say. They were strong men. Jesus chose them for a reason. Another thing that is a part of when you do get that revelation is know that you can also be tempted. And it's not God who tempts us. And it's said in James chapter 1, verse 13, that God does not tempt us. But it's bad thoughts and the desires of our own flesh that tempts us. So if you already a fearful person and you walk around with fear, which this is speaking to myself at times, man, Lord is working with me, y'all. You'll be tempted by your own fear, because that's what your natural self. So we have to be careful of not confusing that God is tempting us and because he's not. You'll be tested. And my mom made a great point, because I told her, I said, it's crazy how, they had to have been on that boat for 20 minutes. And the storm was brewing before they even took off in the boat. But it didn't get crazy and it didn't happen until Jesus went to sleep. Until after he went to sleep. And she said, so what does that tell you? And I said, no, she said, what does that tell you who orchestrated it? And I'm all like, God. God orchestrated that storm, because guess what? He testing you. You learned something. So now it's time to see. It's time to see what you've learned, and it's time for you to use it. So that part. And the last point I want to make is trusting God through your storms. We all gonna have storms in life. And that storm was a physical storm, but trust me and believe me, the Bible is full of all kind of mental storms, emotional storms, like, and we gonna get into all them stories. But you have to trust God through it, especially if you know he brought you to it. You know he gonna bring you through it. So if you walking around in a state of mind where you feel like you can't overcome, then guess what? More than likely, you probably won't overcome, or you're going to be skating on grace and mercy to overcome, because you're not believing in the power that you possess. When we ask God to give us certain things, and we ask God, to be a part of his kingdom and stuff like that, and we join ourselves with him, you are putting a hit out on yourself. And I'm going to just be real, because the enemy doesn't want that. You putting a hit out on yourself. And it's okay, because guess what? Greater is he that is in me than he that is in this world. The power that you possess in yourself is greater than anything that's outside of yourself. And I have testimonies of my own, but this is makeup and Bible stories. And trust me, y'all, like, these story times that people be telling on the internet for entertainment purposes, I understand, like, it's for entertainment and stuff like that. But y'all, it's real life stories in the Bible that's juicy, that's drama filled, because that's what everybody be looking for. That's controversial, but it has real life lessons behind it, and you could take something away from it. And that's what I want to bring to YouTube and to my content, is that yes, it's juicy stories in the Bible. They had baby daddy, baby mama drama too. They had relationship drama too. They had internal conflict too. They had sibling rivalries. They had incest. They had all kind of stuff in the Bible, all kind of drama you wouldn't believe, but it's stories behind it. And with these stories and these testimonies that they are, you see God orchestrated and working, and you get the power of God through these stories, and you get to learn who he is through these stories. So I hope that you guys take away from this story, you feel me, some good things that you apply to your life. know that any storm you're going through, you can make it through. He brought you to it. He can bring you through it. And I just pray that you live a good, well, and happy life. Tell a friend to tell a friend to subscribe. And if you got a man, tell your man and tell his man to subscribe. You feel me? Like, we trying to grow over here and evolve. So thank you for tuning into this video, and stay tuned for the next one.